Hello and welcome to The Big Picture with me, Ishan Russell. Tonight we discuss the issue that rocked Parliament today, the AgustaWestland bribery controversy. Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar read the government's charge, while Anand Sharma and Abhishek Manu Singhvi put up a spirited defence for the Congress party. However, Parrikar's statement caused an uproar in the opposition benches, with the Congress staging a walkout from the Rajya Sabha. Now, through the day, Rajya Sabha saw a heated debate with the BJP and the Congress leaders accusing each other's governments of wrongdoing. But what are the political strategies at play, and how will this impact the political scenario of the country? Also, what happens to the investigation from here on? What happens to the choppers? And a whole lot more other questions that I'll be posing tonight to defence expert Vice Marshal Kapil, Dr. Ajoy Kumar, National Spokesperson of the Congress Party. We're also joined by Gopal, Krishna, Agarwal, National Spokesperson of the BJP, and Smita Gupta, Associate Editor at The Hindu. Vice Marshal Kak, I'll start with you. In terms of how this entire controversy is played out, just for our viewers' understanding, where do we go from here? Because there are a series of allegations that have been made of wrongdoing, of who's done wrong, or the level of corruption that is being talked about. But in a simple case, what is the case over here?
Well, you raised some very, very interesting points, Ishan. First and foremost, let me submit that classically, one sees a congruence between the two parties as that relates to the evolution of the operational requirement, selection of helicopters and its induction. Starts with the BJP government, moves on to the UPA 1 and the UPA 2, and now we have the NDA 1 or NDA 2. So what you see is actually a congruence. Every single parameter relating to this acquisition, there is agreement between both parties as it evolves. But today's parliamentary debate brings out the unedifying spectacle that was what we see is sensation rather than sense. What we see is a whole lot of wild acquisitions rather than putting on the floor facts and figures to justify party stance. So I'm afraid I would like to move from the parliamentary debate to the question that you raised on the second note, and that is what happens now. The fact is that we are quoting an Italian higher court and earlier quoted the Italian lower court. I want to ask one fundamental question, Ishan. What about 1 billion people not being able to do one bit of evidence, either through the CBI or the Enforcement Directorate, in the last 4 years that this case has been engaging the public attention and a lot of sensation? That's the first question. It's a shame on us that you rely on some. And I like to just inject a word of comic interlude in this.
Sure.
The Italian High Court judge, Maggio, should be a Bollywood scriptwriter. Because I saw the interview that a channel where I was a panel and he did an interview to the correspondent. He says there is no evidence against Tyagi, but there is Tyagi family. There is no evidence against Sonia Gandhi.
All right.
All this is what has been mentioned in the conversations, in some notes, and in some records.
All right, so you say, what is our investigation? What have we done over here at home? And Smita Gupta, that's perhaps the question that needs to be asked. As far as the investigation over here is concerned, now we see former Chief Marshal SP Tyagi being questioned by the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate, and summons being issued to various other people who are party to this controversy. But in terms of the political parties, who's to blame, who's not to blame? Because what we saw in Parliament today was everybody agreeing on the need for an investigation, but at the same point in time scoring political brownie points by blaming each other.
Well, if you look at it historically, if you go back to Bofors for a minute, Bofors took down a government, took down the Congress government. But even today, which I mean, and we are talking about the late 80s, we still don't know who got the money, where the money went. Again, as you pointed out, this AgustaWestland is being sort of investigated for 4 years here. And as Marshal Kak pointed out, it's a shame that nobody has got a shred of evidence one way or the other. These issues have become political issues. I don't think any government is really keen on finding out, who's made the money. I don't know, Marshal Kak will know more about this, but isn't it time perhaps that middlemen are legalized. You say
lobbying is a reality.
Yeah, it is a reality. you say that you won't deal with any middleman who is not registered. And perhaps in
All right,
that
so
sense,
defense procurement as a whole, I mean...
actually all political parties get money for elections in this way. So nobody is really interested in, pinning down anybody. So,
All right,
so it's just an occasion for mudslinging.
You're saying it could be a whole lot of rhetoric, but Gopal Krishna Agarwal, the question that begs to be asked is, for the past 2 years now, 26th May is when the government would be 2 years in power, and we have to wait for an Italian court to say something in terms of our own investigation, where have we progressed, why wasn't this as big an issue then, and in terms of evidence being presented in Parliament, did the BJP and the Defence Minister do enough on that front today?
Actually, we should go to the crux of the issue. The basic question is, in the hullabaloo of everything, we should not miss the basic question is, there has been bribe given, which is very clearly come out from the evidences in the Italian court. Right. The second thing is, who will get in India? Ultimately, it will be the people in the power who could make
the NDA government was ensuring that the investigation on this was happening for the past 2 years?
Yes, definitely. It was moving ahead. Ultimately,
so should we not then wait for our investigating agencies to say something before we go and hear what Italians have to say and verify those claims, whether they're verified, unverified?
The debate has not been started by BJP. The investigation was being carried out. The debate started from the court case of the Italian court, and ultimately the debate is on the channel and everywhere. So when you are talking on a debate on a particular issue, we are answering, and the question is what Congress is doing is they are talking on technicalities. Actually, the question should not be the technicalities, what happened. Clearly, the technicalities will be decided in the investigation in the court. But the basic question is, what BJP is debating or telling is, the bribe has been given, it is proved, and it must go to the person in power.
I want to get the Congress
That is the basic question.
I want to get the Congress
should answer this question.
Okay, the Congress party. Let's put that question. Let's put that question to the Congress.
Talking on technicalities, this happened in 2012.
Is the Congress only talking on technicalities, Mr. Ajoy Kumar? Because the point that is being made about the party is that, it's coming right to the doorstep of the first family of the party, as they say. And in that sense, this is what is raising the hackles in the Congress. And this is part of the BJP strategy to really corner the Congress, especially in the upper house of Parliament, where over the past couple of sessions, things have really not gone the government's way.
Look, Ishan, first of all, the Bharatiya Janata Party is dealing with half-truth. I mean, repeatedly, if you look at the statements they made, look, I mean, I'll just give you a couple of facts and then I'll come to it. They said that the helicopters, which were the previous Mi-8, was used less than 26%. And like Marshal said, that it was a recommendation of the Air Force all through. The experts were recommending the various changes and the requirement for a VVIP helicopter deal. But the fact is that what else could have been the UPA government do? You got a CBI case registered. You cancelled the contract. You got the money more than what you had spent. You got, instead of 1,600 crores, which was paid, you got 2,000 crores. You got the Indian embassy in Rome to send you all the papers and follow up on the deposit. You got the enforcement directorate. You got the letter of rogatory sent. All these steps were taken by the UPA 2 government. You got an integrity clause. And now the BJP, I mean, it's a ridiculous situation where their investigation, nothing has happened. Because by nature, they're used to dealing in false propaganda. We are saying that, what did Mr. Anthony say? We were the guys who said that there is corruption in this deal, cancel the deal. Then they say Mr. Anthony accepts there is corruption. There is no limit to their half-truths. And the same CAG which they swear by, when they were indicted for the Gujarat Petroleum scam, they are not seem to be remembering that.
Okay.
So my question to the BJP is, stop wasting the time of this country on, get it inquired. We started the inquiry. You don't want to do it because you are not interested.
I mean, this is what, and I guess this is what has been happening as far as the political rhetoric is concerned.
For God's sake,
Right. Ajay Kumar, point taken over. But Marshal Kapil Kak, let's just understand, as far as defence procurement is concerned, as you pointed out, that it started, the controversy really started in the first NDA government when, I mean, there have been defence scams earlier as well. But this is a continuation process as far as procurement and the transparency that was expressed at one point in time, now suddenly staring us in the face because we've not taken remedial action in ensuring transparency in procurement.
No, I don't think in this case that particular apprehension applies, Ishan. I'll say it very quickly. Projection of a requirement of a helicopter goes back to 1999. That the Mi-8s which were being used for VVIP flights, incidentally, I did a lot of flying for VVIPs myself, that the Mi-8s will run out of their life in 2010. Very timely decision, 10 years cycle to get in a helicopter. Now, this was done in 2002. You did an RFP, that was the NDA government. And the chief was that time told that you're getting into a situation by insisting on 6,000 meters as the operating ceiling of a single vendor. So, we have no problem in reducing the ceiling to 4.5. It was resisted then by headquarters, but the NDA government, its principal private secretary to Vajpayee ji, Mr. Brajesh Mishra, actually took a meeting. He then conveyed through his secretary the minutes of that meeting, which essentially said no single vendor, reduce it to 4.5. And this came to the next NSA, and Narayanan, who takes a meeting on 1st of March 2005, says, please go ahead and do 4.5. It's like the Mi-8. We have no problem. And also insist a mandatory requirement of 1.8 meters for a cabin. Now, this cuts across, Gopalji, we were discussing this earlier, this cuts across political differences because this is an SPG, Special Protection Group requirement. Now, this is to get there some of their equipment inside the helicopter for visiting heads of state. You may fly Obama, you may fly others, you may fly our own VVIPs. Now, if we look at this, I think the two parties have agreed. The two parties, rather delicious irony, they also agree that there's something wrong with this deal because bribery has come in. But regrettably, time elapsed for Congress was not enough. They initiated the proceedings. But I slightly disagree with Gopalji because this government came with Prime Minister Modi saying there will be not a word of corruption in my regime. Regrettably, we have seen 24 months go past, not a bit of a movement on this investigation, except that we now go back to the Italians, as you rightly said, that High Court appeal. It's all a whole lot of hogwash. I mean, it clearly does not indict. I want to make that point. Here is a family, Air Chief Marshal Tyagi, who served the Air Force for 40 years, and you're casting aspersions on him without a shred of proof. You have shattered a family, you're impacting the morale of the armed forces because he's a popular leader amongst the armed forces. Why the hell should he be tarnished? I mean, this brings me to your point. I mean, this is what the government must do now. They have another 3 years. Firstly, get Christian Michel extradited to India. He is the key witness. And you have an extradition agreement with UK. That should not be a problem. Get him here. Start the proceedings against him and in the remaining 36 months of the NDA government, ensure that you punish the people who are guilty on this. And for God's sake, don't tarnish the reputation of a retired chief when you don't have a proof and the media splashes his pictures all over.
And it's become a bit of a media spectacle. I mean, in terms of political bickering, Smita, is this a new law or there are various other issues? I mean, there's a massive drought that is there across the country. There are NPAs of banks and there are various other issues. But as far as corruption is concerned, strangely with the Congress party, this is what the BJP's attempt is. Is that the strategy of the party? I mean, Gopal would disagree with that, but what is your take from the inside news of the BJP?
Well, you know, when this government came, it came on the plank of development. That was one Mr. Narendra Modi had promised that this country, that he would sort of, achhe din aa jayenge. Now, 2 years have elapsed. There hasn't been much progress on any front, frankly. Last year, they have been losing elections. There are a whole bunch of assembly elections going on, and on the 19th we will know. Of course, the BJP doesn't have too much of a stake in these elections except in Assam. We're coming into the second anniversary end of this month. So it's convenient, you know, I mean, you should be focusing on getting a consensus on the GST bill, for instance.
Right.
Because as everybody has pointed out, I think both political parties, both the Congress and the BJP, as far as I could make out, both said that we need to investigate. Even the Congress party said, please investigate and please punish the guilty. So I think they should get on with that, and once they have that, then perhaps we can have a discussion. But meanwhile, what about economic reforms? What about this drought?
Yeah, and Gopal,
what about drinking water?
Yeah, that's the problem. There are larger issues, and I'm not saying that corruption is not an issue, but a matter that is under investigation. Does it, I mean, when Parliament is on, there are statements being made by ministers and elsewhere outside the Parliament as well, questioning opposition leaders. You know that there are critical legislation that the party wants cleared, like the GST bill, as Smita was pointing out. But here, I mean, it derails the entire process for a conversation with the opposition.
This question should be asked to the Congress spokesperson. There were 2-3 sessions earlier which were watched off. There was no corruption or AgustaWestland in the last 2 sessions. Still the Congress continued to disrupt it. Actually, everybody is saying that the matter is serious. It should be investigated. A culprit should be punished. Here there is a consensus. But then they start talking of technicalities. When the height was reduced, which date, who did. Ultimately, the question is not the height. How the situation was
That's a question for the investigating agencies to answer,
yes,
isn't it? Whether that was wrong
we should
or not.
only debate that there has been corruption, and the corruption money will definitely flow to the people in power who could change the decision of that time. This is the only question that needs to be debated in public. Rest will go to the investigating agencies, technicalities or the other thing. So,
that's the point.
Debate should end here, and Congress should say
that is where the BJP is. I'm sorry, but the BJP is certainly keeping this debate alive.
And the rest of the
I want to get to the Congress party spokesperson.
But let me finish. I had been hearing rest other things we are doing everything, whether it is on the agriculture sector, whether it is employment generation, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is coal block allocation, 2G spectrum, everywhere we are doing it. They are not, we are not linking, we are only restricting
point taken.
Actually, the Congress has to answer why it did not. The first thing it came in February 2012, it should have investigated and sorted out.
All right, Ajay Kumar, just sort this out for me as well. I mean, I know you want to respond to Gopal, but as far as the corruption allegation is concerned, it also came up to Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi's doorstep through close aide Kanishka Singh and his involvement in MRMJs. Do explain to us as far as the Congress party stand on that particular issue is concerned.
You know, Ishan, first of all, have you heard a more ridiculous government which quotes where their main spokesperson, even in the Rajya Sabha and the defense minister, quotes from newspaper reports? They are the government and they have the investigation agency. So what is corruption? For 24 months, the Modi government does nothing. Isn't that a corrupt act? And we are saying we brought all steps to find out the people. We cancel the contract. This hot air has to stop. Their spokesperson talks from newspaper where they have the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate. And they have the gumption to tell the nation that Congress should answer. We've been saying that please investigate. And believe me, after 3 months, they'll forget it. Because this is the Jumla Wali Sarkar which continues to throw spit and run. We are saying please catch.
Right.
And like the Air Marshal correctly said, please
what about the, no, we're not getting that. I asked you a very pointed question as well about Mr. Rahul Gandhi and Mr. Kanishka Singh.
Let me complete. So I'm coming to Mr. Rahul Gandhi. On the Rahul Gandhi issue, what did they do? MRMGF connection, he said he's bought it at the market rate. It's in his affidavit. But they will do a surreptitious, just making allegations after allegations. And then if I ask them, the same CAG has indicted Mr. Modi's government, they are quiet. So my whole issue is, this government is a ridiculous, they don't even think they're a government. They have investigation, they don't put an investigative report in the floor of the House. They pull out Times of India newspaper reports. Is this a serious government? Why can't they put the investigation, status of investigation? That they will not do.
Right.
The party has to answer.
The
I mean,
panic-
everybody
all right,
across
one
the
by
world,
one,
you're
one by
laughing at
one.
these guys.
30 seconds.
So please get the investigation done, but stop quoting from newspapers.
All right, but you've still not
Stop
answered.
quoting newspapers
Okay,
and quote
you-
the report. What is the progress?
They are
If
Fair
you have
enough.
not done anything in
Let's
24
not get into
months,
political
no,
stuff.
no,
right? So
no,
I know
one
what
thing,
I know what both of you will do.
Yeah.
Vice Marshal Kapil Kaki wanted to come in.
No, I just want to, I'm not a political animal. I like to be objective and impartial insofar as the narrative defining is concerned. The first rather serious allegation that has been leveled is that the trials for these helicopter, that is Augusta is also the S-92, which was the Sikorsky helicopter, they were done in respective countries, and this was in violation of the defense procurement procedure. Now, this is again a wild allegation. I'd like to bring a certain perspective to it. The Defense Procurement Policy 2002 under Para 37 allows that trials can be held outside of India. Defense Procurement Policy 2006 Para 66 says exactly the same. It can be done outside. The current Defense Procurement Policy, which has just been unveiled, also permits it, because it's not possible. Firstly, there is no VVIP helicopter which is ready, which you can evaluate in our climatic condition, because you are giving it a certain standard of preparation which they have to develop.
Right.
Therefore, how can you are saying that this was a mock-up? Obviously, it will be a mock-up, but you can prove it and test it. One point on cost. I mean, I think here Gopalji will agree with me that the previous government, before this government, I was one who was critical of the decision here in this Rajya Sabha panel, because AW101 Augusta is a super helicopter, just like the Bofors gun, which Smita talked about, is a super gun, and we saw it in Kargil. If Kargil was saved for us, it was by the Bofors. So I critique this on the ground that you have a first-rate helicopter. Investigate the corruption case separately. And my last point is, this would interest you, sir. Monies paid to the company were 1,586 crores. May I mention to yourself and the speaker and the viewers, we have recovered 2,062 crores. In other words, we've recovered more money than we have paid.
Penalized them
and
as
we
well.
have 3 impounded VVIP helicopters sitting 10 kilometers from where we are at Air Force Station, Palam. So there has been no loss to the exchequer.
Okay.
There have been no tweakings which are unwarranted. Even Air Chief Marshal Tyagi, he couldn't have done anything because these decisions came from the political leadership.
Okay.
He just had to implement. So therefore, this brings us back to moving this, sort of detoxifying the political aspect of it and getting to the investigation.
Yeah, and has that become too toxic, Smita Gupta, the political atmosphere around it? Are we moving lower in our rhetoric?
You know, one thing that I do notice in this parliament, and I've been covering parliament since the late 80s, is that, okay, whatever happens on the floor of the house, whatever rivalries, antagonisms, hostilities you see on the floor of the house, you don't see it outside. But in these last 2 years, I've noticed that there is really a kind of divide, which I think is bad. But coming back to this case, what I wanted to add is that once the Italian the news of what the Italian court had to say came in a sense, because there was a glancing reference to Mrs. Gandhi and all these Congress leaders, it provided the BJP with an opportunity to attack the Congress. But I think the spokesman of the BJP did quite a bad job, because otherwise there is no reason for the Press Information Bureau of the Government of India, which puts out only factual statements about government, putting out 2 statements last week on this issue, and the second one was clearly not written in PIB. It was a completely political statement, which includes lines such as, there are people in this country who don't want Prime Minister Modi to succeed, and he did not strike any deal or something. And that was a reference to the fact that it appeared somewhere that the Prime Minister had met the Italian Prime Minister somewhere.
How much true? How true is that? And I mean, in terms of a conspiracy theory, it's there. But is that
but
really
the government has not answered? I mean, maybe it's not true. I mean, our Prime Minister would meet the Italian Prime Minister and many other Prime Ministers. But you know, I mean, I think the government should have come out. I mean, the BJP as a political party should have answered that question. The moment you get the government to answer, and let me tell you, PIB, this must be a first for PIB.
Okay.
To issue a political statement.
I think
it's a very odd
have
thing.
to do a whole other show as far as communication with the government is concerned. Very quickly, about 30 seconds
because
left.
one thing is everywhere, Congress
next steps I also want
Mr.
to
Carr
know.
also told that the recovery of money does not wash the
Yes,
corruption
absolutely.
case.
As the bribes are
Second
paid,
thing
and that
is-
needs to be investigated.
Second thing is nobody is doubting the competence of AgustaWestland helicopters. It is the situation
It is the bribe.
where
it is the bribe that is under
created where
question.
it
But
was benefited
how is the
out.
party taking it forward? How is the party moving forward with this now?
Ultimately, this will go to the investigating agency.
So it's already with the
They will
investigating
decide-
agency,
they
you will not be raising this issue
do
again
it.
till the investigation is
But
over?
whatever thing is, every corruption case is being pointing out towards the Congress leadership, Gandhi family.
All right.
You see so many
we'll
cases.
wait for the BJP and the
actually,
investigators.
They have to
The
answer.
investigating
Congress is not answering the corruption cases.
All right.
They talk on technicalities. Why BJP is after us?
Ishan.
Why we will not be after
Okay, very
them?
quickly,
Ishan.
Ajay Kumar, 30 seconds. I've run out of time. It's already,
Ishan.
we're over time. Sorry. Yeah, quick, very quickly. Your next steps.
You know, the hot air of the Bharatiya Janata Party won't stop. The same thing Mr. Jaitley said about Vijay Mallya, ek pai वापस लौटाएंगे. Again, this kind of thing. And what are they doing for 24 months? And for God's sake,
You give
All
the
right,
loan
all right,
and then
all right, I'll have to end
This
it.
is rubbish.
They did nothing.
You give the loan, allow them to-
Gopal,
So my
Ajay, I'll have to
question
stop.
is-
I'm
one
sorry.
second, Mr. Jain, I was
We've
not
run out of
interrupting
time.
you. Mr. Jain, relax.
All right.
Mr. Jain, relax, yaar. I didn't interrupt you.
right.
Please, for God's sake,
Ajay,
कुछ
I'll
जुमला
have
वाली
to wrap
सरकार
up.
कुछ
I'm
काम
sorry.
करके दिखाइए.
I'm sorry, I'll have to wrap up. We run out of time on this show. But as you realize, the AgustaWestland deal, of course, is an issue that has become political rhetoric. Let's see what the investigations further clear up the air about this. But as far as the rhetoric goes, well, I think it's all set to continue. Thank you very much. I'm Marshal, Kapil, Smita, Gupta, Gopal, Krishna, Agarwal, and Dr. Ajay Kumar for coming in today. That's all from us on The Big Picture. Thanks so much for watching.